The Galactic Council had gathered again as they did every cycle, in the shining towers of Valdris Prime. The council chambers were huge, stretching higher than the eye could see, with walls of polished crystal that reflected the distant suns. Alien delegates from dozens of star systems whispered and jostled among themselves, their voices a strange mix of hisses, clicks, and tones that humans could not imitate. They had studied humanity from afar, scanning Earth with sensors that recorded everything from temperature changes to patterns of thought. Yet none of them had ever visited, nor did they care to. The humans seemed irrelevant. The Council had always called Earth a young world, a planet of chaos wrapped in a blue and green sphere. Its people were loud, emotional, and unpredictable. That much they knew from data. They had watched centuries pass, humans fighting one another, falling into political rifts, rebelling, and then rebuilding. The Council thought this behavior meant weakness. If humanity could not even govern itself, how could it ever hope to face the organized strength of the galaxy's true powers? Advisors spoke in soft tones, their voices carrying over the chamber floor like distant winds. Earth has no fleet of consequence, one said. Its long, thin arms waved as if brushing invisible dust. Its governments are unstable. Its people quarrel endlessly. If we issue our commands, it will obey, or fail quietly. Another delegate, larger, with scales that shimmered red, nodded. We have allowed it to grow only as a study. Its technology is primitive compared to the Concord fleets. They will not resist us. There is no risk. A small ripple of agreement moved across the chamber. The Council's confidence was absolute. They had never underestimated any species before, not in all the known galaxies. Why would Earth be any different? They believed the humans would follow instructions, obey without question, and eventually fade into the orderly rhythm of galactic life. They believed they held all the cards. Far away on the surface of Earth, Adam Carter sat alone in a small, brightly lit control room. The room smelled faintly of warm electronics and coffee, a smell he had long grown used to. He leaned back in his chair, watching the large holographic screen in front of him. The screen displayed streams of incoming messages, star charts, and intercepted transmissions from alien fleets. It was a routine part of his work, yet today something felt different. The numbers on the charts seemed too neat. The silence between transmissions seemed too deliberate. Adam's fingers drummed lightly on the desk, and he did not speak. He was used to thinking carefully. That was what humans did. They thought, they planned, and they acted when the time was right. Behind him, the doors of the briefing room closed with a soft hiss. Sarah Moore stepped in, her expression serious but calm. She had short brown hair that curled slightly at the ends, and eyes that always seemed to be calculating something invisible to anyone else. She did not speak immediately. She simply stood by the doorway watching Adam, waiting for the right moment. "We've received their latest assessment," she said finally, her voice quiet, precise. "They think we are weak. They think we will obey." Adam nodded slowly. "They always do," he said. There was no fear in his tone. Only observation. "They've never seen humans this way before. They've never been tested." Sarah's lips tightened into a faint line. "We have time," she said. "We need to prepare carefully. Every move has to be measured." Adam leaned forward, resting his elbows on the desk. "They think silence is fear. That's their mistake. They always assume chaos means submission. But we know better." Outside the window, the sun was beginning to dip toward the horizon, casting long orange shadows across the city. Below, people moved about their lives in the usual manner. Cars honked, children laughed, dogs barked, and the faint hum of energy grids filled the air. No one seemed to notice that beyond the sky, beyond the clouds, dozens of alien fleets were observing, judging, and preparing to intervene. The humans looked ordinary. They behaved ordinary. But ordinary had its own quiet strength, a resilience the galaxy had yet to understand. In the council chambers far away, alien leaders continued to talk about Earth as though it were nothing more than a small puzzle. "Send a message," one hissed. "Tell them to comply. Their borders are unimportant. Their cities are weak. This will be over quickly." Another added, clicking in agreement, "We do not even need to send fleets. They will fall in line after a warning. Why waste resources?" The laughter that followed was high-pitched and shrill, echoing through the crystal halls. They believed it would be simple. They believed it would be easy. Back on Earth, Adam and Sarah worked through the night. They were not panicking. They were not shouting. They were planning. They coordinated with fleets in orbit and with hidden bases scattered across the planet. Every civilian network that could be compromised was secured. Every communication line was rerouted. Every system had a backup. Adam ran simulations on the incoming alien strategies. Sarah checked their own fleet deployments. Both of them understood something fundamental. The galaxy's arrogance was humanity's advantage. Hours passed. The sky outside turned from orange to deep purple, and the first stars began to twinkle faintly. Adam leaned back again, stretching his arms. "They think we are noisy and divided," he said quietly. "They think we cannot work together. They do not know us." Sarah smiled faintly, a gesture both small and meaningful. "They will learn," she replied. "But not yet. Not until the time is right." For the humans, patience was a weapon. It was a quiet, unspoken strength that the aliens had never experienced. The Galactic Council had no idea that the species they dismissed as insignificant had survived countless wars, famines, and disasters, not through brute force alone, but through careful planning, ingenuity, and an unbreakable will. That history ran through every human mind, every human decision. That history was why Adam and Sarah could remain calm, even as alien fleets hovered unseen in orbit. The night deepened. City lights flickered below. Somewhere, children dreamed, unaware that the future of the planet rested in the hands of a few who could see the bigger picture. Adam and Sarah moved between terminals, checking and rechecking coordinates, fleet movements, and civilian evacuations. Every detail mattered. Every calculation mattered. Humanity would not be reckless. Humanity would not panic. Humanity would act only when all pieces were in place. At last, Adam leaned forward, resting his head in his hands. He stared at the blinking dots on the holographic display, dots representing ships, satellites, and communication networks. "They think silence is fear," he whispered. "We will show them something else." Sarah placed a hand on his shoulder. "The galaxy smiles now," she said. "But that smile will fade. When it does, we will be ready." Outside, the wind stirred the trees. The stars twinkled in distant patterns. Below, life continued, oblivious. And above, hidden in the darkness, alien eyes watched, unaware that the quiet humans were already preparing for a day that would change the galaxy forever. In the council chambers, the laughter continued. The Galactic Council believed it was safe, that the humans were powerless. But Earth had secrets the galaxy could not see. Humans were adaptable, clever, and patient. They could wait decades if necessary. They could hide in plain sight. And most importantly, they could strike when the time was exactly right. Adam Carter and Sarah Moore exchanged a glance, unspoken understanding passing between them. They had inherited centuries of survival, of overcoming impossible odds. They carried the quiet knowledge of a species that refused to be underestimated. They would wait. And the galaxy, in its arrogance, would soon learn its fatal mistake. As dawn broke over the city, painting the sky with light pinks and golds, Adam smiled faintly. "Let them think we are small," he said. "Let them think we are weak. The galaxy will be very surprised when it learns the truth." Sarah nodded, looking out at the horizon. "And we will be ready." The wind carried the faint sound of life, a normal day for humans. But beneath that ordinary sound was a readiness, a calm before the storm, a quiet determination that would one day shake the stars. Humanity did not shout. Humanity did not tremble. Humanity waited, and that waiting was more dangerous than any attack the galaxy could imagine. For now the aliens smiled. For now Earth seemed ordinary. But the first step in a war the galaxy would never forget had already begun. Not with a strike, not with fury, but with stillness, patience, and quiet confidence. Humanity said nothing, and the galaxy smiled. Across Earth, life carried on as it always had. Streets were filled with the usual rhythm of cars, bicycles, and people hurrying to work or school. Children's laughter echoed from playgrounds, and vendors called out their daily offers, selling bread, fruit, and coffee. The skies were filled with planes, some private, some commercial, moving in neat paths between cities and countries. Everything appeared ordinary, calm, and peaceful. But beneath that calm surface, the gears of a hidden war were turning. Humanity had known for centuries that survival was never guaranteed, and this was no different. In the shadows, in secure command centers and remote bases, humans were preparing for the moment the galaxy had underestimated them. In a secure facility buried deep beneath the surface of what looked like a quiet city, Evan Brooks moved quickly between holographic screens, issuing commands that were invisible to anyone outside. The room was dim, lit only by the soft glow of the displays. Charts, maps, and streams of data flickered across the walls, showing positions of fleets, communication nodes, and alien surveillance ships. Evan's brow was furrowed, his eyes sharp, focused on every detail. Beside him, Lily Grant worked with equal intensity. Her hands flew across a keyboard, shutting down networks that could be exploited, rerouting communications, and creating layers of security that would take years for any intruder to penetrate. The hum of the computers and the soft clicks of the consoles were the only sounds in the room. No one spoke loudly, no one panicked. Every move was precise, deliberate, and measured. "We're almost done with the northern grid," Lily said, her voice steady. "The civilian networks are secure. No one outside will even know the fleets are moving." Evan nodded, never taking his eyes off the main screen. "Good. Begin dispersal for Sector 4. Keep the ships in low-orbit patterns. Make them look like routine patrols. No surprises." He paused, looking at the data flowing across the holographic screens. Alien sensors were everywhere, watching for even the slightest anomaly. Humanity could not afford mistakes. One wrong move and the galaxy's fleet could strike first. But Evan and Lily had anticipated every possibility. They had run simulations thousands of times, testing every strategy, every angle, every weakness. Outside the facility, the world continued as usual. Cars honked, streetlights blinked, and people went about their days, completely unaware of the movements above them. Satellites, drones, and hidden ships moved silently in orbit, all part of a careful plan that the galaxy had not noticed. To anyone looking from afar, humanity seemed peaceful. Silent. Vulnerable. But silence was not weakness. Silence was preparation. In another part of the planet, Olivia Reed, a young strategist, checked the positions of supply lines and resource hubs. Her room was filled with screens showing everything from agricultural centers to fuel depots. Each location was tagged, monitored, and ready to be defended if needed. She communicated with teams around the globe, coordinating movements with precision. "Everything is going according to plan," she said quietly to herself. "No gaps, no leaks." Her words were almost lost among the soft hum of the computers. She had grown up learning that survival required foresight and discipline. Every lesson from history had taught humans that calm preparation could make the difference between life and extinction. And now, with the galaxy underestimating them, that calm preparation was more valuable than ever. Meanwhile, in the oceans, fleets moved like shadows beneath the waves. Human submarines, some disguised as commercial vessels, coordinated movements with those in orbit. Ethan Clark, the fleet commander, gave silent orders, ensuring that ships moved in patterns that would confuse any observer. His eyes, calm but sharp, scanned every readout. He had trained for this his entire life. Every decision mattered, every second counted. On land, engineers and technicians reinforced communication lines, set up emergency shelters, and ensured that every system had a backup. People who did not know the full plan still played their part, following instructions with routine precision. The ordinary flow of life was a cover for extraordinary preparation. In one of the command centers, Evan Brooks paused and looked at Lily Grant. "How long before the outer systems notice the change?" he asked. "Depends on their sensors," Lily replied, never taking her eyes off the screens. "But we've made the movements subtle. Nothing that stands out. They might think it's just routine maneuvers." Evan nodded. "Good. Keep it that way. They must not suspect until we are ready." Hours passed. The sun moved across the sky, casting changing shadows on the cities below. People laughed, argued, shopped, and worked. In homes and offices, children played, adults typed emails or read books, and traffic moved steadily along familiar routes. Life appeared simple, ordinary, and calm. Yet under the surface, Earth was alive with hidden activity. Fleets moved silently, networks shut down quietly, and communication hubs rerouted information without a trace. The humans in the command centers were the silent conductors of this invisible orchestra, each action deliberate, each moment measured. By evening, the dispersal was nearly complete. Human fleets were positioned in low orbit, invisible to casual observation, ready to respond instantly if needed. Civilian networks were secure. Communication lines had redundancies built in. Every detail had been checked, double-checked, and triple-checked. Evan leaned back in his chair, letting out a slow breath. "It's done," he said. "Everything is in place." Lily glanced at him, her expression calm but intense. "The galaxy thinks we are afraid. They see nothing. They assume weakness. That's exactly what we want." The two of them exchanged a glance. There was no pride, no arrogance. Only understanding. Humanity did not need to shout, did not need to make noise, did not need to show strength until the time was right. They only needed to be ready. In orbit, satellites continued their quiet watch. Alien fleets, thousands of light-years away, transmitted their observations to the Galactic Council. They saw nothing unusual. Humans were still ordinary. Civilizations on distant planets whispered among themselves, mocking the tiny, emotional species called Earthlings. But back on Earth, in the hidden command centers and secure facilities, humans moved like shadows, invisible but prepared. The galaxy could see only the calm. They could not see the preparation beneath the calm, the precision, the patience, and the quiet strength that had been honed over centuries. The night deepened. Stars appeared in the sky, distant suns twinkling faintly. Cities below lit up with the soft glow of lights, children sleeping peacefully in their beds, unaware of the movements above. Humanity waited. Patience was a weapon more powerful than the strongest fleet. It was the quiet before a storm that no one could imagine. Evan Brooks leaned forward, studying the readouts one last time. "They will not see it coming," he whispered. "Not until it is too late." Lily Grant nodded silently. She shut down the last of the exposed networks, ensuring that no signal could betray their positions. "The silence is our shield," she said softly. "They hear nothing. They know nothing. That is our advantage." Across Earth life continued. Children dreamed of games, adults dreamed of work, and cities moved in their daily rhythms. Above, hidden fleets glided in orbit and under the seas, their presence unseen. Humanity had prepared in silence, with no noise, no panic, and no fear. And the galaxy, as always, smiled, believing it was in control, believing that humans were weak, emotional, and incapable of serious resistance. It had not noticed the subtle movements, the quiet preparations, or the patience that had taken centuries to develop. The humans of Earth had learned long ago that the calmest surface often hides the deepest strength. They had learned to wait, to plan, and to act with precision. And now, as they waited silently, the galaxy was about to discover something it had never understood. The silence was not fear. It was preparation. The message began quietly without fanfare. Across the galaxies, monitors flickered to life, displaying a calm, steady transmission originating from Earth. Stars and planets far away reflected the light, but no one expected what they were about to see. In a hidden chamber deep beneath the surface of the Earth, Daniel Reed stood at the center of a room filled with screens and consoles. The walls glowed softly with maps of the galaxy, fleets, and data streams, all meticulously arranged. He held a tablet in his hands, the device that would carry humanity's message to the stars. His fingers rested lightly on the edges, and he did not hesitate. He did not tremble. He was calm, precise, and focused. Around him, technicians and strategists moved quietly, checking transmissions, verifying coordinates, and preparing systems to send the declaration. Among them, Mia Harper, a communications specialist, ensured the message would reach every sector of known space. Her eyes flicked across her console, confirming each channel. "All systems ready," she said softly. "The transmission will go live in 30 seconds. Daniel nodded. He looked at the gathered team, each person understanding the weight of the moment. For centuries, humanity had been underestimated, mocked, and dismissed by the galaxy. Their intelligence had been questioned, their strength denied, their potential ignored. Today that would change. He took a deep breath and began to speak. His voice was calm, deliberate, and clear. "People of the galaxy, this is Daniel Reed speaking for humanity. We have observed your fleets. We have received your warnings. We have listened to your assessments. The time for diplomacy is over." His words were not loud and they were not angry. There was no shouting, no hysteria, no emotion meant to provoke. Yet the tone carried a weight that no alien sensor could measure. It was simple, firm, and absolute. "We are at war," Daniel continued. "We are not weak. We are not divided. We are not afraid. Humanity will now act to protect itself, its people, and its home. Any force that attempts to control, harm, or threaten Earth will meet our response. This is not a threat. This is a declaration. We are ready." The room was silent for a moment after he finished. Outside in the cities, life continued as usual. People walked streets, drove cars, and talked on phones, unaware of the words now traveling across light years of space. But the message had already reached alien eyes and ears. In the chambers of the Galactic Council, alien leaders reacted with confusion and amusement. "They are joking," hissed one, its long arms gesturing in disbelief. "A declaration? From these weak creatures? They must be testing us," another said, its voice clicking like stone against glass. "No species dares speak this way to the Concord. They do not have the fleet, the power, or the control to make such a statement." They laughed, briefly and loudly, the sound echoing through the crystal halls. But in that laughter was arrogance. A belief that words alone could not change anything. They assumed the humans would panic, falter, or surrender under the slightest pressure. They assumed they had all the control. Back on Earth, Daniel Reed lowered the tablet and looked at his team. No one smiled. No one cheered. They simply nodded to each other. This was not a performance. It was not a victory. It was a first step, a beginning. The real test would come next. Mia Harper monitored the outgoing channels. Message confirmed in all sectors, she said. Every fleet, every command post, every civilian network, received. Daniel's eyes swept across the holographic galaxy displayed before him. Each dot represented systems, fleets, and worlds. The message had gone through every known sector, and in every corner, someone or something was now aware. Humanity was no longer passive. Humanity was ready to act. For the aliens who received it, the effect was immediate. Reports poured in from surveillance stations and fleet commanders. Some laughed, thinking it a joke. Others were confused, uncertain how to react. The humans did not sound like the species they had observed. They were calm. They were deliberate. They were confident. In one observation post, an alien officer named Karin stared at the screens in disbelief. They are serious, he said, his voice trembling. They claim war. They claim readiness. They are different. His superior, Zyrat, shook its head. Impossible. Their fleets are small. Their technology is limited. Their history shows nothing but internal conflict. They cannot win. Yet even as Zyrat spoke, other reports came in, humans moving fleets, securing networks, preparing infrastructure. They were not panicking. They were not hiding. They were doing something no one had expected, preparing quietly, deliberately, and efficiently. Daniel watched as the reports came in. They think laughter is enough, he said quietly to Mia. They think we are small, weak, and incapable. They are about to find out their mistake. The galaxy, in its arrogance, had underestimated one simple truth. Humans were patient. Humans were resilient. Humans had survived disaster after disaster, war after war, and every time had come back stronger. The alien fleets had never faced a species that could wait calmly, prepare methodically, and strike only when ready. In orbit, hidden human ships adjusted their positions. Submarines beneath the oceans moved silently. Communication nodes rerouted data. Supplies were ready. Emergency networks were active. Every system was in place, functioning perfectly. Not a single human was idle, not a single detail left unchecked. Meanwhile, in distant star systems, alien leaders tried to make sense of the message. This is foolishness, one said. They cannot fight us. They cannot, asked another, its voice trembling slightly. Perhaps we have misread them. Perhaps they are more dangerous than we thought. Back on Earth, Daniel Reed smiled faintly. Not because of victory, not because of fear, but because the first step had been taken. Humanity had made its declaration. The galaxy had heard it. And now the real work would begin. He looked at his team, their faces lit by the soft glow of the screens. Every person understood the stakes. Every person understood the challenge. Yet none wavered. They had prepared for this moment their entire lives. And now the moment had arrived. In the council chambers of the Galactic Concord, the laughter had stopped. Whispers spread across the room. The aliens began to study the humans more closely, trying to understand what they had missed. Some dismissed it, some doubted it, and some, few in number, felt a flicker of unease. Daniel Reed continued to monitor the galaxy, watching reactions and adjusting plans. Every response was recorded, every movement noted. The humans were not reckless. They were observing, calculating, and preparing for the inevitable. Night fell across Earth. Cities glowed with soft lights, cars moved along familiar streets, and people slept peacefully. Above, hidden human fleets moved like shadows, ready for any action that might come. The galaxy had received the declaration. It had heard the words. But it did not yet understand the meaning. Daniel Reed placed the tablet down and looked out at the night sky. Stars stretched across the horizon, distant suns twinkling faintly. He felt a quiet satisfaction, not in confrontation but in clarity. Humanity had spoken. Humanity was no longer hiding. Humanity was ready. Mia Harper leaned against the console beside him. "Do you think they understand what we mean?" she asked softly. Daniel shook his head slightly. "No. They will not understand until later. But they will learn. And when they do, it will be too late." In the distant galaxies, alien fleets moved cautiously. Surveillance posts recorded every human action, every fleet adjustment, and every network reroute. Yet the aliens did not know how to interpret the calm precision they observed. They did not know that silence, preparation and patience were weapons far sharper than fleets or weapons alone. The first message had been sent. The declaration had been made. Humanity had chosen its moment. And in that quiet, calm, measured declaration, a seed of doubt had been planted across the stars. Daniel Reed turned to his team. "Now," he said simply, "we wait for the next step. And when it comes we will be ready." The galaxy had laughed. Briefly. But that laughter would fade. Humanity had declared war, not in anger, not in haste, but with certainty. And certainty was something the galaxy had never fully understood. For the humans in the room, the moment was quiet. There were no celebrations, no cheers, no fanfare. Just preparation, just readiness, just the calm before the storm. And somewhere, in the vast reaches of space, alien leaders began to feel, for the first time, a small, nagging unease. Daniel Reed looked out the window at the stars, thinking of the centuries of human history that had led to this point. They had survived floods, plagues, wars, and invasions. They had rebuilt cities, nations, and lives countless times. And now the galaxy would learn the final lesson. Humanity did not act without reason, but when it acted with strength, precision, and purpose. The silence that followed the declaration was deep, almost complete. But it was not fear. It was calm. It was patience. And it was preparation. The galaxy had heard the words. The humans had declared war. And the first laugh of the aliens was already beginning to fade. The first message had been sent. And the universe would never be the same. The moment had come. After centuries of being underestimated, humanity was no longer silent. Fleets that had once been hidden now moved with purpose, striking not with rage but with exact calculation. Across the galaxy, alien observers blinked in confusion, unable to predict what was happening. In a command center deep beneath the surface of Earth, Mark Allen leaned over a holographic display, his fingers moving quickly but carefully across the controls. Each dot on the screen represented a human ship in orbit, moving like shadows against the black of space. Enemy supply lines, stretched thin across hundreds of light years, were vulnerable, but only if attacked in the right way. "Adjust formation to Delta Grid 5, Mark ordered, his voice steady. "Keep the outer scouts moving low and slow. Wait for my signal before striking." Beside him, Rachel Stone monitored multiple battle simulations simultaneously. Her eyes darted from one screen to another, adjusting human fleet movements in real time. "Outer supply lines in Sector 9 are exposed," she said. "We can disrupt them without alerting the main fleet." Mark nodded. "Do it. Surgical precision only. Civilian systems untouched." Across space, human ships streaked silently through the void, their engines nearly invisible to alien sensors. They were not designed to fight in large, flashy battles. They were designed to hit exactly where they were needed, and then disappear before retaliation could be organized. Supply convoys, communication hubs, and command satellites were all targets. Each strike was carefully calculated to create maximum disruption with minimum exposure. The first wave hit quickly. Alien supply lines blinked out of communication one by one. Ships that had carried fuel, food, and ammunition were disabled without explosions, without alarms. Alien crews on distant stations stared in disbelief as their reports came in. Nothing had fired on them directly, yet their operations were collapsing. "This is impossible," one alien officer said, pacing back and forth. "No fleet has this level of precision. No species can strike like this without detection." "They must have some hidden technology," another replied, its voice tight with worry. "They cannot do this with what we know." Meanwhile, in the human command center, Mark Allen and Rachel Stone worked in perfect synchronization. "Outer defenses are starting to respond," Rachel said. "They are adjusting their shields and trying to reroute fleets. We need to stay ahead." Mark's eyes narrowed. "Already ahead. Send the next wave to intercept their communications hubs. Keep their fleets blind and confused. Civilian areas remain untouched." The attack unfolded like a silent storm. Alien fleets moved to respond, but every attempt to reorganize was met with another perfectly timed disruption. Human ships darted between sensor blind spots, constantly adjusting, constantly adapting. Nothing was left to chance. In one distant sector, an alien fleet commander named Verilyn watched the screens in shock. "Our supply lines are failing," she whispered. "Our ships are moving, but the humans are always one step ahead. How is this possible?" Her officers scrambled, trying to analyze the sudden changes in fleet positions. Reports came in faster than they could process. Convoys disappeared. Communications failed. Fuel shipments vanished. And yet, no human ship had fired a single direct weapon at the alien combat vessels. Back on Earth, Mark and Rachel watched as the simulations unfolded in real time. They were calm, precise, and confident. "Outer supply hub disabled," Rachel said. "Next target is Central Command Relay. Minimal exposure, maximum effect." Mark nodded. "Deploy the stealth drones. Let them gather data and prepare for the next strike. We don't just attack, we learn. We adapt." And that was exactly what the humans did. Each strike was followed by immediate observation and adjustment. Alien fleets tried to counter, but every move they made was anticipated. Confusion spread faster than damage. Alien commanders could not understand how a species they had dismissed as weak could operate with such precision, foresight, and adaptability. In one orbital station, alien engineers frantically tried to repair damaged supply lines, only to find that every repair was disrupted by human interference. Nothing exploded. Nothing burned. Yet nothing functioned. Every attempt to regain control failed. "Who are these humans?" one officer asked, his voice trembling. "They are not fighting directly, yet they are destroying everything we rely on." "They are extraordinary," another admitted reluctantly. "This is not normal. They are not like any species we have faced before." Back on Earth, Mark Allen adjusted tactics mid-battle. He studied the holographic maps, noting patterns in the alien responses. "They are predictable in their unpredictability," he muttered. "They react as expected, but they can't anticipate our flexibility." Rachel Stone typed rapidly, rewriting strategy on the fly. "We are not just striking. They cannot understand what we are doing until it is too late. That is the advantage." Human ships moved again, striking the next target with the same careful precision. Alien fleets scrambled to respond, but the humans had already moved on. Communications were disrupted, supply lines severed, and command structures confused, all without a single explosion reaching civilian areas. In a distant council chamber, alien leaders began to realize something terrifying. "They are not fighting for conquest," one said. "They are not attacking civilians. They are targeting only what matters to us. They are ending our advantage, not our people." Another voice, quieter, said, "They are strategic. Calculating. We cannot predict their moves. Every attempt to adapt is met with another adjustment. It is like they are always one step ahead." On Earth, Mark and Rachel watched as alien fleets faltered, their once orderly formations breaking into chaos. "They are trying to regroup," Rachel said, "but we've already disabled their communication nodes. They cannot coordinate. Every ship they move is a blind move." Mark leaned back slightly, letting a small smile touch his lips. "Confusion spreads faster than damage. That is what I always say. They cannot fight what they cannot understand." Even as the first wave of attacks concluded, new waves were already moving. Human ships darted between sensor arrays, striking where necessary, gathering intelligence and adapting tactics in real time. Every move was calculated, every decision deliberate. The aliens were reacting, but the humans were always in control of the tempo. In one remote command station, the alien officer Kalran stared at the incoming reports. His claws tapped the console nervously. They are unstoppable," he muttered. "Their strikes are surgical. They are not reckless. They are too precise." His superior, Zyrat, the same one who had laughed at the human declaration, now sat in silence. The arrogance that had dominated the council for centuries was gone, replaced by a creeping doubt. For the first time, they realized that the humans were not ordinary, not emotional, not weak. They were disciplined, adaptable, and deadly in ways the council had never predicted. Mark and Rachel continued to coordinate. "Next target, the main command relay," Rachel said. "We disrupt their fleet's ability to regroup completely." Mark nodded. "Deploy the orbital drones. Keep moving. Observe. Adjust. Every strike teaches us something new. Every reaction we measure increases our advantage." The humans worked like a single organism, each part aware of the others, each movement precise. Alien fleets moved in response, but every movement was anticipated, every adjustment countered. Confusion spread faster than damage. Chaos rippled through the alien lines. In the distant council chamber, leaders whispered among themselves. "How can this be?" one asked. "They are not even firing on our ships directly, yet our fleets are paralyzed. Our supply lines are gone. Our strategies fail before we can execute them." Another replied quietly, "They are learning faster than we are. Every move we make is observed, recorded, and used against us. It is beyond anything we expected." Meanwhile, on Earth, Mark and Rachel watched the last of the first strikes complete its course. They survived, Rachel said. Some fleets remain. But they are useless. Their advantage is gone. Mark nodded. Exactly. Confusion is more powerful than destruction. When they cannot understand what we are doing, they cannot fight back effectively. That is our strength. Even as the first shockwave of attacks ended, the humans remained calm. There was no celebration, no arrogance, no impatience. They had achieved their goal, to show that humanity could strike with precision, adapt in real time, and render a superior force useless without unnecessary destruction. Across the galaxy, the first true understanding began to spread among alien officers. These humans were not weak, not emotional, not reckless. They were patient, calculating, and dangerous in ways the galaxy had never expected. The first shock had been delivered. Alien fleets survived, but they were crippled. Command structures were disrupted. Supply lines were gone. And through it all, humanity had remained silent, calm, and in complete control. Mark Allen and Rachel Stone exchanged a glance, understanding that this was only the beginning. Humanity had shown its first strength, and the galaxy had felt the shock. The next moves would come, and when they did, the lessons would continue. For now, the humans returned to their stations, monitoring, adjusting, and preparing for the next stage. The silence of Earth was no longer a sign of fear. It was a sign of control, of strategy, and of the quiet, deadly strength that had made humanity capable of surviving against all odds. The galaxy had received its first shock. And it would never underestimate humans again. The galaxy had never paid attention to human history. For centuries, alien analysts assumed humans were impulsive, emotional, and fragile. They looked at Earth and saw disorganization, wars, and chaos. They believed that any species with such internal conflict could never stand against a united, disciplined force. They had been wrong. For the first time, alien scholars and analysts began to dig deeper. They pored over centuries of records, historical documents, literature, news archives, and even recovered transmissions from the early days of space travel. Analysts in the Concorde's main data centers stared at the screens, their long fingers tracing patterns of battles, migrations, and political upheavals. They saw something strange. Humans did not collapse under pressure. Humans endured. Humans survived. They rebuild after every failure, one analyst said, its voice clicking with astonishment. Entire civilizations lost, and yet they return. They adapt. They improve. Another, larger officer tapped its claws against the console nervously. This is not normal. Most species collapse after one major disaster. Humans, they grow stronger. Reports flooded in from fleets that had engaged human forces. They described precision, patience, adaptability, and resilience. Every attack seemed small but effective. Every defense seemed fragile but unbreakable. Alien commanders who had once laughed at the humans now stared in disbelief. They had underestimated what patience, cunning, and endurance could achieve. On Earth, Noah Turner, one of humanity's top negotiators and strategists, received the first surrender terms sent by the Galactic Council. The message was clear: cease resistance, comply, and Earth would be spared. The galaxy assumed humans would panic under the threat of destruction. The galaxy assumed they would beg for mercy. Noah read the terms quietly, his expression calm but firm. He folded the document and looked around the room at the other human leaders present. Clara Mitchell, his deputy, glanced at him nervously. "Are we going to respond?" she asked. Noah shook his head slowly. "We do not surrender. Not out of pride. Not out of anger. We do not surrender because we are certain. Certain that we are capable of protecting our home. Certain that we can finish what must be done. This is not about winning a single battle. It is about survival, and ensuring no one ever underestimates us again." Clara nodded, understanding the weight of his words. Outside, the city moved as usual, unaware that the decision would echo across the galaxy. Humanity was not reckless. Humanity was deliberate. Every calculation, every movement, every action was part of a larger plan. Back among the alien analysts, panic began to spread. "They refuse to comply," one whispered, almost afraid to speak aloud. They are not afraid? "They are certain," another said quietly. "Every decision they make is deliberate. Their history shows it. They survive. They endure. They rebuild. They do not fight to win, they fight to finish." The phrase echoed in the chambers of the Concorde like a warning. The galaxy had studied countless species over millennia, yet none had approached combat with the same combination of patience, resilience, and cold calculation as humans. On one orbital station, alien commanders tried to regroup fleets that had been disrupted. Supply lines were slowly being rebuilt, but every attempt was met with human interference. Communications were scrambled. Reconnaissance drones intercepted movements. Every effort to re-establish control was slower than human anticipation. A senior alien officer, Kiri's Vol, threw its clawed hands up in frustration. It is useless. Every response we make is countered. They anticipate us. They do not panic. They adapt. How can a species so small, so emotional be so precise? They are not emotional, another replied in disbelief. They are inevitable. On Earth, Noah Turner addressed the Human Command Council. The galaxy is beginning to understand, he said softly. They see our movements, but they do not yet see the depth of our preparation. They believe they can stop us, but they cannot. We have endured worse than this, and we will endure this as well. Our goal is not to fight for victory alone. It is to finish what must be protected. And we will. Around the council table, human leaders nodded in quiet agreement. There was no arrogance, no rush to celebrate. Every human in that room understood the weight of the moment. They were facing a galaxy that had never seen their true strength. And the galaxy would only learn the truth slowly, painfully, and too late. Alien analysts continued to study human history in disbelief. They saw the rebuilding after plagues, after wars, after natural disasters. Entire cities had been leveled, nations had collapsed, yet humans returned stronger, smarter, and more resourceful. They saw the development of strategy, technology, and social resilience over centuries. They saw adaptability that no species in the Concord could match. They are unstoppable in ways we did not anticipate, one analyst admitted. They are not motivated by conquest or greed. They are motivated by survival and certainty. They do not fight to win, they fight to finish. Across battle zones, human fleets continued operations with quiet precision. Ships moved in patterns that alien commanders could not predict. Supply lines were severed. Reconnaissance satellites were intercepted. Communication nodes were disabled. Alien fleets survived, but they were ineffective, scattered, and confused. Every human move was measured, deliberate, and unavoidable. In one remote outpost, Evan Brooks, monitoring fleet activity, whispered to his assistant, "They think they are reacting to us, but they are already behind. Every strategy they make is countered before it can be fully implemented. That is the difference. We do not fight to win in a moment, we fight to finish the fight on our terms." Rachel Stone, coordinating tactical adjustments across multiple theaters, nodded. And they still do not understand our history. They do not see the centuries of survival, learning, and adaptation behind every move. That is why we cannot be predicted. In the council chambers of the Galactic Concord, alien leaders gathered in tense silence. Reports continued to pour in. Fleets were crippled, supply lines disrupted, and strategic positions lost. Analysts presented data showing patterns in human activity, patterns that were precise, deliberate, and intelligent. They do not retreat, one officer said quietly. They do not surrender. Every time we force them back, they adjust, adapt, and return stronger. How is this possible? They are different, another said. We dismissed them. We assumed weakness. And now, it is too late. Back on Earth, Noah Turner stood at the window of the command center, looking out at the stars. They will realize eventually, he said to Clara Mitchell. They will see that we do not fight like any other species. They will understand the meaning of endurance, adaptability, and certainty. But by then it will be too late to stop us. Clara nodded. They think surrender is the answer. But we never gave them that option. Our history has prepared us for this moment. Our past has taught us patience, resilience, and strength. They cannot match that. On distant alien worlds, fear began to spread. Analysts continued to study human behavior, trying to predict future movements. They pored over historical archives, trying to find weaknesses, patterns, or mistakes. But the humans had learned from every disaster, every failure, and every defeat. Nothing was overlooked, nothing was forgotten, nothing was wasted. In orbit, human ships moved quietly but efficiently. They disrupted enemy formations, gathered intelligence, and prepared for the next phase of operations. Supply lines were still vulnerable, communication networks still imperfect, but humans had already anticipated every potential flaw and corrected it in advance. Alien fleets, once confident, were now paralyzed with uncertainty. Orders were given and countered before they could be executed. The Concord realized too late that humanity was not an ordinary species. Humans were relentless, adaptive, and precise. Their history had made them unstoppable in ways the galaxy had never considered. Noah Turner addressed the Human Council once more. We are not fighting to win in a single battle. We are not seeking glory or conquest. We fight to finish. Every action we take is deliberate. Every move is measured. And when the galaxy fully understands who we are, it will be too late to reverse what we have started. The council nodded. No celebrations, no cheering. Just quiet determination. Humanity had survived plagues, wars, famines, invasions, and internal collapse. They had rebuilt, adapted, and grown stronger every time. Now, facing the galaxy that had dismissed them, they were ready to apply every lesson learned across centuries. The realization spread slowly across alien fleets. They could no longer rely on conventional tactics, overwhelming numbers, or technological superiority. Humans were not predictable. Humans were not emotional in the ways the aliens assumed. Humans were patient, calculated, and deadly in their precision. They do not fight to win, one analyst whispered in disbelief. They fight to finish. And that understanding, that terrifying truth, came too late for the galaxy. Every fleet crippled, every supply line disrupted, every strategy countered. It was already part of a pattern humans had mastered long ago. Noah Turner turned from the window looking at his team. History has prepared us for this. Our past has taught us to survive, to endure, to rebuild, and to finish. And that is exactly what we are doing now. Across the galaxy, alien analysts continued to stare at the records, screens, and fleets, finally realizing that humans were unlike any species they had encountered. They were patient, adaptable, relentless, and precise. They had endured everything the universe had thrown at them, and they would endure this as well. Humanity had made its stand. It had shown its strength. And the galaxy, for the first time, truly understood the cost of underestimating Earth. Humans did not fight to win. Humans fought to finish. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Every fleet that had once threatened Earth was now in retreat, scattered or immobilized. Supply lines were broken. Command structures were confused. Alien leaders had realized too late that they had underestimated a species that survived, endured, and adapted in ways no one could predict. And yet, on Earth, life continued as if nothing had happened. Cities were alive with the normal rhythm of daily life. People walked streets, children played in parks, and planes crossed skies above cities and oceans. There was no celebration. There were no parades. Humanity had won, but that was never the point. In a secure command center, Grace Wilson sat before the communication array that would carry Earth's final message to the stars. The room was quiet, save for the soft hum of computers and the occasional beep of incoming reports. Grace's hands rested lightly on the console. Her face was calm, her expression steady. She did not smile. She did not frown. She was focused. Around her, the Human Council monitored alien responses. They had seen fleets scatter, command posts fail, and supply lines crumble. They had watched confusion ripple through the galaxy faster than any weapon could inflict damage. Humanity had proven its power without firing a shot at a civilian target. Humanity had proven its strength without unnecessary destruction. Grace took a deep breath and activated the transmission. The screens flickered as signals traveled across light years, reaching every corner of known space. She began to speak, her voice calm, firm, and deliberate. To the peoples of the galaxy, she said, we have made our position clear. We have defended ourselves, disrupted forces that threatened our home, and demonstrated our capacity to act decisively. You have seen our history, our endurance, and our determination. We have fought to survive, to protect, and to finish what must be protected. But we will not conquer. We will not seek revenge. We will not impose our will. We ask only for distance, respect, and peace. Her words carried across star systems, through fleets, and into the halls of the galactic Concord. Alien leaders paused, some in disbelief, some in awe. They had expected humans to continue advancing, to take territory, to strike further. They had expected anger, hatred, or pride. Instead, they received calm. They received reason. They received a message that was almost unimaginable. A species had demonstrated overwhelming strength and precision, yet it chose restraint. Noah Turner, standing beside Grace, watched as alien analysts and fleet commanders transmitted back signals of acknowledgement. Slowly, hesitantly, alien representatives began to respond. We understand, one said, its voice wavering with uncertainty. We respect your request. Distance and peace will be granted. In every system, alien fleets adjusted course. Supply lines were abandoned, bases evacuated, and patrols rerouted. The galaxy was quieting, not out of fear but out of understanding. Humanity had not sought conquest, but the galaxy now treated Earth as untouchable. Grace Wilson concluded the transmission. Earth will remain as it always has. We ask only for respect and distance. Let our home remain our own as your worlds remain yours. She deactivated the array and leaned back in her chair. Silence filled the room, heavy but peaceful. Outside, human cities continued their lives, unaware of the final message that had traveled across the stars. People laughed, walked, and worked. Children slept peacefully in their beds. Earth remained unchanged. On distant alien worlds, analysts and leaders whispered to one another. They did not take our systems, one said. They did not claim our planets. They did not destroy anything beyond what was necessary to defend themselves. They chose restraint. It is remarkable, another admitted. We underestimated them for centuries. We saw weakness where there was strength. We laughed at them, mocked them, and tried to dominate them. And yet, they have emerged undefeated. And now, they grant us peace if we choose to accept it. Across the galaxy, fleets that had once been confident now moved quietly, deliberately, avoiding Earth. Supply lines were repaired, but the knowledge of human capability remained. The message was clear. Earth would not attack, but it could not be attacked. Back in the command center, Grace Wilson stood and looked at the human council. Noah Turner approached her. It is done, he said softly. The galaxy has received our answer. They understand and they will respect it. We are at peace for now. Clara Mitchell nodded. And we are undefeated. Not through conquest, not through revenge, not through pride. We acted only to protect and to finish what needed to be defended. And that is enough. Mark Allen adjusted displays on the console, showing the positions of alien fleets as they withdrew across vast distances of space. They are leaving, he said quietly. Not because we forced them entirely but because they understand. That is more powerful than any victory in battle. Rachel Stone monitored reports from reconnaissance satellites and stealth drones. Earth remains untouched. Civilians remain safe. No unnecessary casualties. That is humanity's choice, and it is respected. Even in the most remote corners of human territory, fleets and systems that had been activated during the conflict were now returning to standby mode. Ships returned to hidden bases, submersibles resurfaced from oceans, and communication networks returned to normal civilian use. Humanity's military might have been displayed, but now it was quieted. In orbit above Earth, human ships rotated slowly, silently, as if keeping watch without intrusion. Sensors remained active, but their purpose was observation, not aggression. Humanity had proven it could strike anywhere, anytime, but now it chose restraint. Across the stars, alien leaders and fleet commanders could not believe the simplicity of it. They had faced a species that had destroyed supply lines with surgical precision, rendered fleets ineffective, and disrupted communications across hundreds of systems. Yet, after demonstrating such power, humanity stopped advancing. They chose not to conquer. They chose not to punish. They chose only to demand respect and distance. Why? One alien analyst asked. Why would they stop after proving their strength? They are humans, another replied. They fight to finish, not to dominate. They survive, endure, and protect. That is their nature. We can only respect that, or risk further consequences. On Earth, life returned to its usual rhythm. Children played in parks, unaware that the galaxy had just learned the truth about their species. Workers commuted to offices and factories. Markets operated normally. Planes crossed the skies. Cities glowed at night with ordinary lights. And somewhere, quietly, humans watched over their planet, ready for anything but not seeking conflict. Noah Turner walked through the corridors of the command center. We have given our answer, he said softly to Clara Mitchell. It is simple yet powerful. No conquest. No revenge. Only peace, respect, and distance. That is enough. Clara smiled faintly. And it is understood. The galaxy will not bother us again, at least not while we choose peace. Mark Allen returned from orbital monitoring. Fleets are retreating in all sectors. The galaxy has accepted our terms immediately. Earth remains unchanged, untouched, undefeated. Rachel Stone added, and they will remember. Every fleet, every system, every leader that observed us will remember what we are capable of. And that memory will keep them at a distance. Grace Wilson looked out the window at the Earth below. Oceans shimmered under the sunlight. Cities sparkled. Forests stretched across continents. The planet was alive, calm, and resilient, just as humanity had been for millennia. quiet, peaceful, and undefeated. Earth is safe, Grace said softly. Not because we attacked endlessly, not because we sought revenge, not because we conquered. We are safe because we acted with precision, endurance, and certainty. And now, we let the galaxy go peacefully and they understand. Noah Turner nodded. That is humanity's answer. Strength but restrained. Power but measured. Survival but with honor. And so, across the stars, alien fleets withdrew. Command posts were abandoned. Supply lines were repaired. Surveillance systems recalibrated. And everywhere humans remained calm, quiet, and undefeated. On Earth, life continued without interruption. People walked streets, children played in parks, and skies were filled with planes and satellites, unaware that the galaxy had just learned a lesson it would never forget. Humanity had shown what it meant to fight, survive, and endure, and then choose peace. Grace Wilson deactivated the final communication array. She turned to the council and said simply, "The answer has been given. The galaxy understands. Earth remains quiet, unchanged, undefeated." Silence filled the room, heavy but satisfying. The message had been received. Humanity had proven its strength without conquering, without revenge, without unnecessary violence. Earth had defended itself. Earth had endured. And now Earth could rest quietly, peacefully, undefeated. The galaxy had learned respect. Humanity had shown restraint. And the planet continued, calm, unbroken, and unchanged. For now at least Earth was safe. The answer had been given. And the galaxy would never forget it. The end.